In November 2025, the United States Supreme Court made headlines once again with a decision that quietly but powerfully reaffirmed one of the most significant civil rights rulings of the last decade. The court refused to hear an appeal from Kim Davis, the former Kentucky county clerk, who became a national figure for refusing to issue marriage licenses to same-sex couples. This refusal left the lower court's decision in place and preserved the 2015 ruling of Obergefell versus Hodges, which legalized same-sex marriage nationwide. To understand why this moment matters, let's go back to how we got here. Kim Davis first made news in 2015 when she denied marriage licenses to same-sex couples after the Supreme Court's Obergefell decision. She claimed that issuing those licenses violated her religious beliefs. As a public official, she argued that her faith should exempt her from performing a duty she believed was morally wrong. But several same-sex couples sued her, saying she had violated their constitutional right to marry. Courts agreed with those couples. Judges ruled that when Davis acted in her official capacity as a county clerk, her personal religious convictions could not override her legal duty to uphold the Constitution. By refusing to issue licenses, she had violated the law and the rights of the couples who came to her office seeking equal treatment. Fast forward to 2025. Kim Davis appealed to the Supreme Court, asking not only to avoid personal liability for her earlier actions, but also to challenge the very foundation of same-sex marriage rights in America. Her petition explicitly asked the court to reconsider and overturn the Obergefell ruling. But the Supreme Court said no. It declined to hear her case, letting the lower court's decision stand. On the surface, that might sound uneventful, a case the court simply chose not to take up. But legally and symbolically, it's a big deal. By refusing the appeal, the Supreme Court effectively reaffirmed the right to same-sex marriage and rejected the idea that religious belief can justify a public official's violation of that right. For now, this means a landmark 2015 decision remains solid law. Same-sex couples across the country continue to have the constitutional right to marry, and state and local officials must honor that right. The decision also carries deeper meaning about the relationship between personal belief and public duty. The courts have repeatedly emphasized that while the First Amendment protects individual freedom of religion, it does not allow a government employee to use that belief as a reason to deny others their constitutional rights. When Kim Davis refused those licenses, she wasn't acting as a private citizen. She was acting as the government itself. Her violation wasn't only against the couples she turned away. It was against the principle of equal protection under the law. Still, this case has reopened old debates. Some conservative voices continue to argue that the government is forcing people of faith to act against their conscience. Others see the Supreme Court's refusal as a necessary stand for equality and rule of law. Legal experts note that while Obergefell remains safe for now, there's no guarantee it will never face a challenge again. Some justices have hinted in past opinions that they'd be willing to revisit certain precedents tied to substantive due process, the same constitutional foundation that supports same-sex marriage, contraception rights, and even privacy protections. But at least in this moment, the Supreme Court has chosen stability over upheaval. It has signaled, even quietly, that the rights affirmed in 2015 still matter, and that public officials cannot violate them under the cover of religious freedom. For the LGBTQ+ community, this decision offers reassurance. It's a reminder that the fight for equality, while far from over, still stands on firm legal ground. For people watching the balance between faith and law, it's another chapter in an ongoing national conversation about where personal belief ends and public responsibility begins. Kim Davis became a symbol in that conversation, a figure caught between conviction and law, between faith and duty. Her story sparked outrage and support in equal measure, but ultimately, the courts found that her actions were a violation of the Constitution. The Supreme Court's refusal to take up her appeal reaffirms that principle once more. No public official is above the law, and no one's personal belief can erase another citizen's equal rights. As of now, the legal right to same-sex marriage in the United States remains intact. The Supreme Court has chosen not to reopen that wound, leaving Obergefell versus Hodges untouched. Whether this stability lasts will depend on future courts and future cases. But this decision reminds us that the promises written into the Constitution Equality, liberty, and justice for all are only as strong as the nation's willingness to defend them. The Kim Davis case may be over for now, but the questions it raises about faith, freedom, and the limits of authority will continue to shape America's ongoing struggle to define what justice truly means.